All right, let's go ahead and add some state to our Star Wars random character generator using an API. So first things first, we need to add a constructor. We can pass in the props if we wanted to. There's no props, so we're just going to skip that. And we're going to say this.state is equal to, and then it takes an object. Or if you come from Python, it takes a dictionary. And we need to store, what do we need to store? The name, the height, the homeworld, and the films therein. So let's go ahead and store the name as null. We don't know what that name is going to be yet. The height is going to be null. We don't know what that height is going to be yet. That homeworld is also going to be null. We don't know what that is going to be yet. And the films, that's going to be an empty array. And the way I got this, and we'll come back to this in just a second with the super, but the way I got null everywhere is because we don't know what the name, height, or homeworld is, but films, we know that that's going to be at least a list or an array. And if we go back here, we're going to see films. See right here? This is an array. And so we want to store that data just as it is inside of our application. Now let's go ahead and run this. And this is saying that super needs to come before. So let's run super. Cool. That seems to work. Good enough. Now, every time we click get new character, we need to update this state. And we do that with this.setState. And I'm literally just going to copy and paste this over. And we're going to hard code some of these just for the time being. So the name is going to be Luke. The height is going to be 172 if I remember. Tatooine. Please don't judge me if I spelt that wrong. And I'm going to leave the films as one item in here. Just item 1. Actually, I'm going to put item 2 in here as well, just so we can see what this looks like. So we're just going to hard code these values, and then we can change it in here. So we can say this.state.name. Height in centimeters, I think it's in centimeters. This.state.height. The homeworld is going to be a URL. So this.state.homeworld. And again, we're setting that state. We originally set that state, and when you click, we're going to reset that state, or we're going to update that state. And lastly, films is going to go in here. This is going to be an interesting one. We're going to work with this a little bit later. But we could say this.state.films. And we hard-coded this. This is not using an API request yet. You can see it kind of looks a little bit ugly, a little bit broken at the moment. When we click it, it automatically fills those things in for us. Check that out. That's pretty nice. Now let's go ahead and make sure that this doesn't show up. We're going to do that in the next lesson. So every time you load the page, there's just a button, and none of this stuff is going to show up until that button is clicked. We'll do that in the next lesson. But for the time being, make sure you have this hard-coded. Don't worry about the API request. We just need to make sure you have a constructor. Make sure you run super first. This.state, you're going to want name, height, homeworld, films, or any other data you want to use from the Swappy API. Make sure when you click, you're going to be setting that state. So you want to set the name, the height, the homeworld, the films, or whatever properties you set in your object, in your state object. And then simply print that out to the page in your render function. Go ahead, try that out, and when you're ready, let's head on over to the next lesson where we hide all this stuff until it's actually available to see.